If you have been sending CVs after CVs, cover letters after cover letters, and never hearing back from employers, and you are starting to doubt yourself, then this video is for you. Whether you are unemployed or in a job and you feel like it might be time to move on, the CV template I am going to give you in this video stems from years of personally testing out a dozen of different CV structures and styles from my own career. This CV template that you're about to copy from me has allowed me to get job interviews that got me out of working in Burger King, slaving away in retail, to high-paying jobs in tech. And don't worry, these hacks are universal and will work for any sector. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I don't like to give generic basic advice. So you won't find me giving you tips like
make sure that there aren't any spelling mistakes.
So stick around until the end so you know where to download this CV. And with that said, let's get right into it. Before we get started, there are two things I want to quickly cover. Number one is to clarify what the purpose of a CV is. Now, most people incorrectly think that a CV is meant to get you a job, which is not correct. A CV only has one purpose, and that is to get you the interview. But how you perform in the interview will determine whether you'll get the job or not. And the second thing I want to cover is that before we move over to the first component of the CV, I need you to do me and yourself a huge favor. Remove the following terms from your CV right now, and I'll explain why in a second. Remove terms like intern, junior, and the worst one out of all, unpaid work experience from your CV. Why, you ask? Well, first of all, it's just because you're not mentioning that you were a junior administrator or a junior web developer, it doesn't mean that you're lying. You just choose to not disclose it at this stage of the interview. Secondly, every line on your CV matters, and these terms do not give you any competitive advantage over others applying for the same role as you. So turn junior graphic designer into just a graphic designer. Unpaid web developer becomes web developer. Teaching intern turns into teacher. Let's get right into my CV, which I have broken down into 3 components. And before you copy my CV, you should thoroughly understand each one in order that you can make sure that you turn it into something that works for you. Now, you should always make sure that your CV has one of the highest matchability scores out of all the CVs that are being sent through. This is just a fancy word for how high your skills, experience, and personality match with what the employer is looking for. Therefore, you should always have 3 to 4 slightly different variations of your CV on hand so that when you see a job opening, you can send the one that matches what they're looking for the most. Remember, the job of the CV is to land you the interview. Now, let me give an example so it makes sense. Let's say I was applying for the role of a project manager. Project managers are usually responsible for the managing of budgets, deliverables, cost, stakeholders, change management, governance, resources, amongst a few other things. So the first thing I will do is to make sure I understand what in particular this employer wants out of a project manager so that my CV can be optimized for that. And there are 2 methods I use to find this information out. Method 1, go through the job ad thoroughly and take notes from what they ask for beyond the essential requirements section, which are usually put under the desired or nice to have sections of the job ad. Method 2, if you got contacted by the recruiter, just be direct and ask them what additional things is the hiring manager looking for. And 9 out of 10 times, you'll get a response with even more details than they have disclosed on the job ad. So in this scenario, let's just say that I found out at this particular project manager role, they wanted someone who's very strong in change and stakeholder management. I would send them a CV which heavily highlights these 2 skills of mine in every section of the CV. And when I bring up my CV in a minute, I will show you exactly how to do that. Finally, the reason why you should spend extra care on ensuring that your CV has a high matching score is because every hiring manager uses what's called an application management system, which uses AI to shortlist the best CVs to save time. And these systems solely rely on the keywords that are mentioned on the CV. Okay, so we got through the application management system. We've made it to the shortlist of CVs that the hiring manager is going to go through. Well, now the second job is to make sure that our CV stands out so that the hiring manager puts us on the list of CVs that he or she will read in full later on. And that's because during the first round of going through the CVs, all a hiring manager is doing is skimming through the CVs one by one, keeping the ones that look interesting and throwing away those that are not. So what do? Well, we need to grab their attention within 5 seconds. So how do we do that? Well, lucky for you, I have tried a dozen of different techniques, and this one technique is the one that has absolutely killed it for me. And it's a tactic that I borrowed from display advertisers whose day job is to write words that suck you in. Say you are on the market to buy your first home and you were looking for information online. Which out of these two options would be more attractive to you? Well, I'm pretty sure most of you would choose option 2. It's simply more intriguing and more interesting. So what I've done on my own CV is I tested whether I could use the purpose of a cover letter and blend it into my CV to see what works. So I added a small section which stands out on my CV, just underneath the bio at the very top with the heading of "We should talk if blah blah blah." And what that does is it draws the attention of the employer to this section, and if your words are persuasive enough, I can guarantee you your CV will be put on a shortlisted list to read later. Okay, so now we are at the final stage. Because number 1, we've made it through the application management system by optimizing our CVs for all the right keywords. Number 2, our printed CV is now on the shortlisted CV stack to read later, as we were able to grab their attention using the 5-second rule. And now for number 3, the final stage, for your CV to be so irresistible that the hiring manager cannot wait to talk to you. And there are 2 methods to do this. Number 1, instead of talking about what you were responsible for throughout your career history, talk about your achievements and results. And finally, this is a very unusual one, but I promise you it has done wonders for my own job applications, and it's the icing on the cake. It's the Salt Bae salting the steak to make it perfect. And that's by adding a short endorsement from a former manager or colleague about you right at the bottom of your career history. Nothing screams this person is a great candidate more than having other people endorse you. And you can do this by either copying and pasting your LinkedIn endorsement, or just simply ask for a short review via email and put this on your CV under the career history section. Okay, so now I'm going to hop on the Mac and show you exactly how my CV would look like if I was going for a fictional project manager job using these 3 building blocks we just learned. And remember, I'm pretending that I did my research already, and for this role they're looking for someone who is particularly strong in change and stakeholder management. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to get through the application tracking software. We do that by optimizing the CV for as many keywords as possible. The second thing that we need to do is we need to grab the hiring manager's attention within 5 seconds so they can put our CV on the shortlisted CVs list. And number 3, when they're going through the CV in detail, we need to match their organizational need as much as we can so that we become a irresistible candidate that they are dying to talk to. So the first thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to show you what a typical CV looked like. So remember, I've made up a fictional CV and a fictional job post. This company is looking for an IT project manager with an expertise in stakeholder and change management. Okay, those 2 terms are very, very important. Now, if I asked you, does this CV scream stakeholder and change management expertise? It does not. It might do well in the application tracking software and you might get through, but I can promise you this CV, which is your typical template, typical structure, is not going to be attention grabbing enough, because we have hundreds, sometimes even thousands of people applying for the role, and as a hiring manager you only have a few seconds to make up your mind. So now that we know how your CV shouldn't look like, and by the way, this is how my CV used to look like, but like I said, I have tested many different structures and styles, and now I'm about to show you what my CV looks like today. So this is what my CV would look like if I applied for a IT project manager with an expertise in stakeholder and change management. So straight away, I'm very direct, and underneath my name, I am already optimizing for the keywords. So I'm saying I'm an IT project manager with an expertise in senior stakeholder and change management. This will again be help us with getting through the ASD, but also look how I've also made it bold in my bio. And if this was in front of a hiring manager, this will be a lot more attention grabbing, but it's still not attention grabbing, because what is really grabbing their attention is this section that I spoke about in the video before. Is we should talk if your organization is looking for an all-round technically savvy IT project manager who has successfully led, and here goes, change management portfolios at scale in challenging environments with the ability to lead influence stakeholders at all levels. Oh, Mohammed, you definitely have my attention, because this is exactly who I'm looking for. Then we have skills, and we've rewritten them in bullet points, but also very important, I've highlighted 3 of my skills and I put them underneath my expertise section: it's digital transformation, stakeholder management, and change management. Okay, now you got my attention and I'm starting to get interested, but I want to know more. And on the previous CV, I put down my responsibilities, but now I've rewritten my responsibilities in the format of highlights. So here I'm talking about what I have done instead of what I was responsible for. And again, I'm using the keywords of change management, stakeholder management throughout the highlight section. And for the icing of the cake, I'm showing results and social proof. Here's a quote from my previous manager, which is a fictional character. Mohammed was with us for 2 years at Company X, and he was instrumental in leading the organization in its digital transformation. Mohammed is an expert in the management of complex change management projects, and it has a natural ability to get on well with and influence stakeholders of all levels. This, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the CV template I've been using for all my jobs and contracts over the last few years. So you can download this CV in the description in the video down below. I hope this video was useful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up and definitely subscribe to this channel.